My narcissistic sister tried to kill me, but the family took it as a joke. Now everyone has finally realized how insane she is. A bit of backstory. I am the second youngest of 5 children. Among my older brothers and sisters, there are 2 brothers and 1 older sister, whom we will call X for this story. The age difference between me and X is 5 years, so we never had the sisterly bond you would expect between siblings. In childhood, I was always a burden to her, and every time it was my turn to choose a family movie or something else, she would get upset. The reason is that since she was 9 years old, she had an obsessive desire to control everything. I think you understand where this leads. Soon, I will turn 19, and X turned 24 this year. Her boyfriend, whom we will call Y, proposed to her during a family day at the beach in June this year. It was one of those proposals with large white letters made of rose petals that he prepared before my family arrived at the location. My sister was thrilled and said yes, and my parents, as well as my older brothers and sisters, were very happy. The youngest child in our family is only 4 years old, so I think she didn't quite understand what was happening. And now the drama begins. From the moment of the proposal, X completely turned into a dictator bride. At my mother's insistence, X made me the maid of honor. So now I'm caught up in all this nonsense. Here are the demands my dear sister made. All bridesmaids must pay for their own dresses, a delicate pink color costing $300 each, as well as shoes, hairstyles, and makeup. All bridesmaids must attend all bachelorette parties, including a spa bachelorette costing $800 per person, a Toronto bachelorette with hotel accommodation at the Fairmont costing $1,000 for 2 nights, and cake and food tasting, paying $25 to participate. To attend the wedding, each guest must make a deposit of $150. Otherwise, their spot at the banquet is forfeited. Gifts can be either cash, bank checks, or items from her gift list. This list includes all the gifts that should be given. Guests must choose a gift and add their name to the list. If, God forbid, a gift does not match the list, she will return it. My mother says this is pre-wedding stress. I believe it's just my sister trying to control everything and everyone. She wants a December wedding at a ski resort. Here are some more requirements my sister set for the bridesmaids on the eve of the wedding. Everyone must visit a beauty salon every 6 weeks to ensure our skin and hair are flawless for photos. Of course, this is at our expense. Anyone with tattoos must hide them. Our dresses cover the neck, ankles, and wrists. The bride wants to be the only one with open arms to display her tattoos and bright hairstyle. Otherwise, we need to dye our hair a natural color or buy a wig at our own expense. Dresses are only available up to size 10. Those who cannot fit must lose weight. I wear size 12, and my sister calls me fat. She even ordered me a book on the keto diet. No one, including service providers, should communicate directly with the bride or groom. All communication must go through the bridesmaids. She created an email with the wedding's last name, which we all have access to, and we shouldn't ask her if something is okay. We should just know. This especially annoys my mother. We must remind guests to bring a $150 deposit to secure their spot, and find out from guests what they will buy from the gift list or how much they will gift, adding this information to the list. As I shared this story with others, I began to realize that my family is abnormal. I'm considering seeing a psychotherapist at my university and asking if I can move into a dormitory. I called my aunt, who is also my godmother, while she was at work. She thinks my mother is crazy and strongly advises me to talk to my parents about everything, not just the wedding but also her privileged treatment of my sister. She is also willing to help if something goes wrong. Here's what the commentators advise the author at this stage. She has to accept the fact that finances control many people's lives, and if she doesn't come back down to earth, it will prevent many people like you from attending her wedding. The author tried to explain this to her, but she doesn't listen. Her fiancé earns over $120,000 a year working in IT, and she herself, an accountant, earns $100,000. They could easily afford everything themselves. Tell your mother and sister that you won't participate until someone covers all your expenses. Your mother shouldn't pretend everything is okay when your sister behaves like a reckless tyrant. The author says this won't work because her sister is very calm, so they suit each other well. She is the only one who can calm her down. How does the family handle the entrance fee for the wedding? The author says they don't. They say it's normal for an Italian family, but she just found out that's not the case. Tell your mother that you don't have that kind of money and about your sister, suggesting she could include you as a regular guest. The author has 13 bridesmaids, 12 bridesmaids, and 1 witness, because it matches the number of the groom's brothers in his class, which was 13 people he became brothers with. She doesn't know what it means, but it's important to him. She talked to her sister, who said it was her duty as a sister to save money. Her mother and father are paying for the wedding, almost $100,000, so they can't give her $2,000 for her expenses. She is going to university in the fall, and her education costs $177,0397, likely a typo, probably meant $177,039.70. It's exclusively their responsibility zone. Her mother and father save money for weddings and honeymoons for everyone. The first update, a week later. They finally talked 2 days ago, and she needed a day to think everything over and process the information. It turned out her father never knew the whole story. He only knew he was responsible for paying for her dress and part of the wedding. The reason is that her parents told her father confirmed it with bank statements that they had created accounts with $25,000 for her and each of her brothers and sisters. The rule was that these accounts could be used for anything when they turned 19 and went to study. It was their money. She just turned 19, and her father was about to sign the transfer of her money to her. When they had this conversation, it caused a minor scandal, but now she needs to share some backstory she learned immediately after her sister got engaged. It turns out her sister talked to her mother about always feeling like the neglected child. She used this phrase before, so she truly believes her mother bought into these words and felt guilty. After a very long conversation, her mother decided she could redirect part of the funds from all the children's accounts to pay for her sister's wedding. For those interested, her 2 older brothers serve in the army. They are not married yet and live on base. They never use their $25,000 because the Canadian Army covers their education, housing, and so on. So her mother had $50,000 at her disposal. Combined with her sister's $25,000 and her own $25,000, it would total $100,000. Her mother decided that since she was going to spend $177,000 on her education, she could just take away her $25,000. Later, her sister did this because she is a master manipulator who skillfully pulls the necessary strings. When she was born, her mother had a very severe postpartum depression, which led her to be hospitalized in a psychiatric ward for 4 months, leaving her sister, 2 brothers, and her with their father. Her older brothers were then 9 and 7 years old, and she was only a few months old. Her sister was about 5 years old or a little younger. Since her brothers were problematic, her father had plenty of responsibilities, and she was cared for by Nanny Tanya. Therefore, her sister received the least attention at an age when attention is very important. She thinks this provoked her sister's bad traits. Although the nanny helped her sister with basic things, food, water, washing, clothing, and some play, it couldn't replace their mother when she returned. Her sister harbored a huge grudge, but not against their mother, but against her. She was the reason their mother left, which led her sister to try to suffocate her with a pillow. Their mother managed to prevent it in time, and this episode became just an amusing story for their family. It turned out to be a way to cope with the situation. Throughout her childhood, her sister used manipulation to always get what she wanted, so it's no surprise she tried to do the same with her wedding. Their mother felt guilty and decided to give her favored child everything she desired. When her sister grew up, it wasn't toys and candies anymore, but entire entertainment tours. As a result, she became much closer to her father than to her mother. She had a normal relationship with her sister when she was 12, but everything changed again when their mother became pregnant with a younger sister. It was a coincidence, and the foundation became her target. Update 2. Now that the backstory is complete, she will explain what actually happened. They finally talked. She told them how she felt, the financial blow it would deal, how unfair it was, and so on. Her father exploded. He didn't know about the $100,000. She showed him a screenshot from the group chat. He didn't like that her mother used the phrase, "your father," many times. They agreed, although in reality, they hadn't discussed anything like that. They sorted out the wedding issue. She wouldn't need to attend. Then she was asked to go to her room because her father and mother wanted to talk privately. They worked out the budget. Then her father asked why she was uncomfortable discussing the problem with him earlier. She showed him this story she's writing for you. Her father went berserk. He immediately called her sister and told her she needed to come here as soon as possible because he needed to talk to her and wouldn't accept any excuses. She said she would be here in 4 hours, as she was with her fiancé and his parents. Her father insisted she fly home immediately, but she hung up and blocked him. Her father told her again to go to her room. She doesn't know exactly what happened privately, but after that, her mother came to talk to her. She talked about postpartum depression and other things she didn't know before. They kind of reconciled, and she asked her mother if she would agree for her sister to go to a psychotherapist since her mother was so sure that this 4-month break caused all her problems. Her mother said she would try, but of course, she couldn't force her. She said that if her sister didn't go to therapy, she would stop communicating with her and might limit interactions with her parents. Her father assured her that she would receive her $25,000 and wouldn't have to attend the wedding if she didn't want to since her sister is charging $150 per guest. She can fund her grandiose wedding with the collected funds. The last part is a joke, but it seems the future uncle and his family don't intend to pay for the wedding. So her parents will have to do it in full. Otherwise, her sister can't have her grand wedding at the ski resort. Regarding the $150 entrance fee, her sister made it all up. There's no such Italian tradition. They talked to the groom's mother when she brought her sister, and she was shocked when her sister said there was a tradition of a money dance during the banquet, but there was no mandatory $150 charge. So her sister arrived 5 hours later, and while the groom's mother was there, she was sweet as a pie. But when the groom's mother left, the gates of hell opened. She demanded explanations for why her father disrupted their peaceful evening and insisted they bring her home immediately. Her father said he didn't care about their evening and told her to sit down. She refused, and they started arguing. Eventually, she sat down after her father began using various methods of influence, including financial threats or threatening to tell the groom's mother about her true nature, which apparently her fiancé hadn't seen yet. She was asked to leave the room again. There were many angry shouts and manipulations from her sister, including threats to cut off communication or deprive their parents of the ability to see their future grandchildren. She tried to make her mother return to the original plan of $100,000, but her mother and father didn't budge. The argument continued until her father shouted that their mother isn't her punching bag and that she's not to blame for her postpartum depression. If her sister is so angry because of it, let her go to therapy. She was called again, and they discussed everything, starting with the keto diet book. Her sister tried to justify her actions by saying she was fat and lazy, but her father stood up for her. Her sister started crying, and her mother asked her father to be gentler, which he did. In the end, they discussed everything, and she finally felt like part of the family instead of another punching bag. Her sister ended up calling a taxi and leaving, claiming she was being attacked. They decided to wait until Christmas, when her brothers returned to the city to discuss what they need as a family to move forward and stop arguing. But most likely, it will be either therapy or her exclusion from the family. Her mother and father are still working out the budget with the groom's relatives. Her parents told them that for such a wedding to take place, everyone must contribute. The groom's relatives agreed that $100,000 for the wedding is madness. The last thing she heard is that her sister would receive $15,000 for the wedding, which actually meant $5,000 since her dress costing $10,000 was already ordered, and the remaining $10,000 would be set aside for something more meaningful. The groom's relatives also agreed to pay $15,000, $10,000 for the wedding, and $5,000 for the honeymoon. Regarding her studies, her father and she are going to the bank tomorrow. They plan to cancel the loan she was forced to take and pay the penalty for its cancellation. The loan officially started only during her studies, so fortunately, the cancellation penalty was very small. Her father paid this penalty, as he realized she shouldn't have taken the loan. Her parents agreed to pay for her first year of education without deductions, and the $25,000 reserved for her education will be transferred to a special account. With her mother, she still has a somewhat tense relationship, and her sister simply hates her. Her sister accused her of everything, and said she caused irreparable damage to her relationships with her fiancé and his family. Because of this, she was banned from attending her sister's wedding, and was erased from her sister's life. Honestly, she doesn't care. She doesn't feel like she lost a sister. She feels like she finally got rid of a villain. She promised her mother and father that she would never treat her younger sister like that. She intends to become the example her sister deserves and be her protector, just as her brothers and father were for her. Let's look at some interesting comments so far. One thing that seems overlooked is that her sister tried to kill her. This is serious. I hope you discuss this moment with a psychotherapist. It's a strong trauma, and the fact that your parents took it as a funny incident is unacceptable. It's terrible, and I sincerely hope you make your mother understand why she reacted that way, and why she didn't send your sister to a psychotherapist then. It's important to get answers to these questions, and your sister should apologize to you. Maybe also ensure that her fiancé knows about the money she demanded. He should understand who he's dealing with. The author says her mother and father initially didn't joke about this topic. Mostly, it was her sister who started making jokes. She says, "It was a joke. And yes, even when we got older." Of course, because the parents never left her alone with the older sister. Either they were in the room, or their older brother was nearby. Only when she turned 10 and she and her sister started having normal relationships did this situation start being discussed in a joking manner. She forgave her sister and honestly thought it was a joke. Now she understands it wasn't, and her sister has hated her all her life. Regarding the psychotherapist, she forgot to mention that her sister attended therapy from ages 7 to 10, but she learned to say what he wanted to hear, and they ended those sessions. Her father wasn't against it. Her mother wanted to get an alternative opinion, and found the best child psychologist in Alberta for her sister. He worked with her for almost 4 years, and eventually said he taught her everything and helped her cope with traumas and other issues. But she feels her sister just learned to speak very well what they didn't want to hear. As for her fiancé, he knows. She sent him a long voice message, and they talked on the phone for 2 hours. In the end, he just shrugged and looked back. She thinks he was aware. He also shows some anxious traits. Do her parents think they failed to raise her sister, allowing her to behave like that? They ignored her, and she tried to suffocate you with a pillow, and it became a family joke. It seems that the parents are shifting all their mistakes onto her, although they are also to blame. She definitely thinks it played a role. She showed signs of anxious behavior in childhood, pushing, biting, or intentionally harming her brothers or children in kindergarten. But she thinks it broke her because she didn't have a mother. Her father took care of the boys, the nanny mainly took care of her, and her aunt mainly took care of her sister. But she couldn't replace their mother. The problem is that although the situation improved when she was 12, her sister told her why she hated her. Because she was fighting over attention. She hated her from the start because their mother was pregnant with a younger sister, and the older sister was venting on her in the house or yelling at the dog. To give you a better idea of what her sister is like, it's worth mentioning that she stole her fiancé from another girl she knew just because she wanted him and didn't care about her acquaintance. Psychotherapists often wait until a person turns 18 to diagnose borderline personality disorder, hoping the child will outgrow it. But adults with BPD often become master manipulators and can deceive psychotherapists by hiding their behavioral traits, lying about their actions and feelings so convincingly that it resembles an actor playing a role. They always have a reason in their minds for why they do what they do, easily misleading those around them. Damn, it seems I'm falling into another rabbit hole. Obviously, her sister will refuse to go to therapy unless it's to prove she was right from the start. Damn, yes, she didn't even give her that damn doll, Lalalupsi. She just grabbed it and burned it. Cutting off communication seems like the best option for people dealing with severe BPD that doesn't respond to treatment. Don't worry, your life will become much calmer without this drama and crazy accusations. Don't worry that your sister won't want to get treatment. Therapy only works if the person is honest and willing to change. People with BPD often lack both, so it's difficult. You should consider going to therapy yourself. I did, and it really helped me. Alongside listening to similar stories, parents often indulge such children, trying to keep the family together, but having a brother or sister with BPD is a very tough case. Once you realize that everything is abnormal, you can start healing. The author says that her mother, father, and she are all going to therapy. Update 3. 3 months later, family therapy is going very well. Her 2 brothers were given temporary leave to return to Canada. They both served abroad for some time. Her family is back on the path to recovery, and she and her mother have become closer than ever. Honestly, it feels like she has a best friend again. As for her sister, honestly, she doesn't know what's going on with her. A friend is still following her social media page, and it seems she's okay. The wedding was moved from December to November. She and her fiancé bought a house, as she heard, and there are rumors that she is pregnant. She cut off all contact with them, and her fiancé's family is saying nasty things about her. But they are holding on. Her older brother is getting married, so by losing a terrible sister, she gains a wonderful one. She has a new sister who is so sweet. She writes to her every couple of days, orders her food delivery when she's sad. Even though she's in another state, she even asked if she feels comfortable in the role of her maid of honor. She is the only child in her sister's family, and her sister's mother died, so she agreed. So by next year, she will officially have a new sister. She has a boyfriend who also serves in the army, apparently unavoidable. He supports and loves her very much, and they have been dating for almost a month. Update 4. After her sister's wedding, her family and she were barred from attending the wedding ceremony. But her cousins, friends, and her husband's family told her how everything went. Nothing special. The groom's mother came in an ivory-colored dress, and a few people brought their children, although it was planned that there would be no children. But the real drama started at the banquet. She feels a bit sorry for her sister because of this, but the groom's mother invited one of the groom's ex-girlfriends, apparently hoping to drive them apart, but it didn't work. She tried to come between her sister and her newlywed husband, but he, being reasonable, asked her to leave. Honestly, it wasn't that dramatic. They walked down the aisle, and today or tomorrow they are going on their honeymoon. Her sister did indeed end up pregnant. At the end of the banquet, the groom gave his speech against the backdrop of a slideshow, and on the last slide, they showed an ultrasound image with the inscription, "Baby, June 2023. So in this video, many opinions have already been expressed about this story, and it's hard to add anything more. It's very good that the story ended the way it did, because often it turns out very differently. You can see for yourself by watching other videos with stories on our channel. They will be here as well. Subscribe to our channel. We have many similar stories in reserve. Thank you for watching. Be sure to share this story with your friends, and good luck.